You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. This episode is sponsored by Nello Effect, a coaching and consulting service that helps people turn mindfulness into action as they navigate the dating world as well as their relationships. Follow on Instagram at nello.effect and find more information in the episode description. Welcome to another episode of I Think I Love My Wife podcast. I'm back with Terrence. Excited to have a conversation with him about fatherhood as he's welcomed his new baby girl Tatum into the world about 6 months ago. Want to hear his story about his development as a man and as a father. Terrence, tell me about Tatum.
Oh man, Tatum Giselle. I've always known that I wanted to be a father. I think I mentioned earlier one of the key qualities about my wife. I was like, she's always been like nurturing, and I knew like immediately I knew like she is going to be a good mom, and that's one of those non-negotiables for me. But me as a father, I would say during pregnancy I could have did better, and that's going to be my advice to men. Fatherhood doesn't start at the birth. It really starts on supporting your wife through that pregnancy journey, and that's something that she's going to remember forever. And it's a little harder for us to make that connection. And I would say initially I was a little slow to it responding, but then like towards the second half of the pregnancy, I was like, I was up to par. I was doing everything that I needed to be. But I remember I called out the gender. So me and my wife, we actually waited for the gender until the birth. And so, boy, girl, didn't know yet. And
Do you have names for both ready?
So about that, so we kind of had names for both ready, but we still weren't sure. And so Tatum Giselle Lomika is her full name. It's the first name we went with. But then in the hospital, they were like, all right, the Social Security people are going to come by in about a day or so. And I was like, oh, we got time. What do we want the name to be? We went through a round robin of names only to come back to the original name.
Like this sometimes. So
for the first 2 days, it was TBD.
I would try to come up with a crazy name.
But no, man, it's like a bundle of joy, and it just gives me so much pride and like so much more motivation. And I would say I've been working at the same place for like, I would say 12 years now. And sometimes like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to work, or I don't want to do this. But like, it's giving me so much motivation. It's like, okay, like, yeah, I had a family as in a wife and mortgages to, support. But it's like, no, I got to do this for this baby girl. Like everything in this world, like her perception, everything is going to be reflective of like what I do, what I show, and everything. And I was actually just talking to my wife the other day, something as simple as like, respecting her body. Like, yeah, I'm her daddy and I need to change her diapers. But when I change her diaper, I'm like, hey, Tatum, can I change your diaper? Like, I want to be invited to the space. Yes, I want to be invited. I want you to, she can't give me verbal permission. She smile, kick her feet. But I want to show her that now. Yeah. It's like, yeah, a man needs to ask for permission. A man needs to respect you. She going to be like, listen, my daddy asked for permission to change my diaper. Nigga, you think you going to come to me with it? Yeah. But no, I love it. I'm actually on parental leave right now. So I took 3 weeks at first, but then I'm on leave for a straight 4 months. So I wake up, I open up the blinds, she's kicking. That's my favorite part of the morning because she just smiles because she knows she's getting out the crib. Do our morning routine. We play on the floor, tummy time. We eat breakfast, we go run our errands. So like every day, like my job is to, of course, care, nurture for her, but just build that connection. And, honestly, it's just as hard as going to work. If not, I'm more tired. There's lots of nights. I got a pillow and a blanket that's in her nursery. So I'd be knocked out on the floor in there. My wife, really? Yeah, like even last night, like sometimes my wife, she breastfeeds, so she's nursing her. So last night she was nursing her to sleep, and I was like, babe, I'm really tired. But I will still lay on the floor in there so my wife's not alone while she's, breastfeeding. and I'll just
What a
fall
good
asleep.
man. What a good man.
No, so I enjoy, like, I've always known I was gonna look forward to fatherhood, but yeah, I'm really really enjoying it. And being in my mid-30s, I feel like I lived life. I've been out. Not saying that I don't want to get out. It just looks different now. I actually met up with some friends. I was with Jomar and Larry. We went to like the food hall downtown. We all had our kids with us, just hanging out. So it looks a little bit different now, but definitely enjoying this phase of life.
Yeah, going out looks different now.
Yes, going out.
I know Paul's brother was here, Alan, the other day, and one of the things I tell people, Paul used to do annual crawfish boil, and it was funny when everyone was like kidless, how it looked, to the fact that then there were like a lot of pregnant women, then there were babies, and now it's just like a kid's birthday party. There's so many kids running around, and so to see the group's evolution in terms of family dynamics has been beautiful. I feel like I'm the one that's running behind because I don't have any kids, and all y'all's kids are gonna be older by the time.
Don't. I thought the same thing. You can't think that way. Everybody's on their own time.
I'm not rushing it though. But that's what it feels like when we're in those situations. But yeah, we got our own timeline.
Yes.
So we're gonna stay on that. I did want to know, you mentioned how you were a little slow, or you could have been better the first half of her pregnancy. I'm curious to understand where areas where you felt like how were you showing up, and then what were areas you felt like you could have done differently?
My wife, she had a lot of symptoms. So like her pregnancy was rough. As far as like, not being able to eat certain foods and throwing up all the time. And it got to a point where like she was just always sick and always not feeling well, to where I think I became a little bit insensitive to it. And it was kind of going in one ear. I was like, well, she's always not feeling well, so I wasn't really like, consistently meeting her needs and support and responding the right way. And it's like, oh, are you listening to me? And then there was a few times early on in the pregnancy where we had to go, and then we go to the hospital and they'd be like, oh yeah, she's low in fluid, she's losing weight. And then a couple times we stayed overnight, and I'm like, oh, this is serious, So it really took a little bit. It shouldn't have. And then I also read a book, and I wish I remember the name of the book. But ultimately, it talked about the experience. And Jomar Sharp, my line brother, and also he's been on this podcast before. He gave it to me. And chapter 1 was talking about supporting your spouse during the pregnancy, especially their first one, and that's something that they're going to remember throughout the entire time. And I remember texting him, and I was like, hey, bro, I really appreciate you giving me this book, because it changed my entire perspective on how I'm going to like respond to her during this pregnancy. Like and I'm the one who wanted children, and she's the one who has to bear it. And I need to make this a positive lifetime experience. And so like, that's why I say early on perspective, and I've kind of changed. And it was, how can I support you? And ultimately, like, we're in a good place now, but I'm glad I was able to catch it soon. I'm glad that I got a village to support me. I'm glad that Jomar gave me that book, because their pregnancy journey was a little ahead of ours, and so he passed it along to me.
No, we're gonna have to get that. I'll get the name of the book, and we'll put it in the comments so people can check it out if that's something of interest to them. You said something that I might be reading more into it than it is, but you said, I want to have kids, and she's the one that has to bear them. Was there a conversation at first in terms of her point of view of having kids that was different than yours initially, or were you guys both aligned?
No, both of us were aligned on we were going to have kids. I think it was probably more so just timing, whereas, we were married, if I do the time, almost 2 years. Well, yeah, we were married more than a year before we got pregnant. Whereas me, I was going to try immediately.
Yeah,
I was like, let's
get
go.
in there, shut up the club.
Yes.
No, that makes sense. When you think about your relationship, right? I see that you guys have done a lot of intentional work to get it to a really good place prior to having Tatum. And now with Tatum, or any baby, it may disrupt, whether it's routines and things that you guys have. And especially now that she's like was a newborn and now like, regular baby, she still requires a lot of attention and focus. How do you ensure that you are giving Tatum what she needs, but also prioritizing the relationship so that you guys are not necessarily losing ground on all the things that you guys have developed and built so far.
Yeah. So I will tell you, those first couple, granted, we're only 6 months, after birth, but those like first 2-3 months, there is no building. It's all about survival. I'm surviving.
I'm a survivor.
Yes, barely surviving. And then I just imagine I'm like, man, how do people do this with like multiple kids and single moms? And I just have a great appreciation for everyone who, takes on children. But yeah, first it was just surviving. And then, you start getting into a little routine. I think we've been both blessed in that her job allowed her 4 months of parental leave. My job then allows me 4 months. So she took, I think, 5 months total, took a little bit extra time. And then, and so we haven't gotten to a place yet where we both have to work. I think that's going to be the hard part, is when we both go back to work. But she was able to spend time with Tatum. Now I'm able to spend time with Tatum and kind of switch that primary care. And so at the end of the day, Tatum is taken care of. Like, we're going to handle our business. And then as far as us, I think we just try to find the small times. One thing for us is like having dinner together. So when we're now putting her to sleep, trying to get her to sleep by 7:30, 8 o'clock, and like sit down, whether we watch a show while we eat or not, just sit down, have dinner together, whether that's takeout or whether she cooks. That's kind of our time in the evening. And also just supporting one another. I was a big proponent of, she was pregnant, of course you can't drink. It kind of limits you on what you can do socially. So now I'm always like, what do you need to do for yourself? Do you need to go out with your friends?
That's good, yeah.
And so like from birth, she'd be like, I don't want to leave my baby. I'll be like, your baby is with me. Yeah. Your baby is fine. And I really try to push her in order to spend the time with her friends and, go to dinners, go to birthdays, go to karaoke, whatever it may be, so she can feel like herself again, kind of.
Sure.
Because postpartum is real.
Yeah, no, I remember we had a conversation about it before where I think you were it was like mutual friends, right? Yeah. So you were representing the family.
Correct, yeah.
And there was like another thing the next day, and you're like, Ash is going to that. And and you talked about how you're trying to be more assertive in telling her, hey, go do these things, because although the feeling may be more pervasive that you want to be with the baby, you also need to have experience of just being out, not necessarily away from the baby, but just doing things for you.
Yeah.
How have those conversations gone? Especially I'm sure you're at a better place now, because I've been seeing her out more. But how did those conversations go in the beginning? What was her response to them? And then how did you kind of get her to a point where she feels more comfortable taking that time for herself?
I think initially it was just like, she was like, if I can't take my baby with me, we ain't going. And I would be like, I would be like, no, like, you go, I'll stay with the baby. And also, I think the biggest part is breastfeeding, because when you breastfeed it, if even if the baby's not breastfeeding, you still have to pump. And so we're getting past all those kind of nuances. But really, it's just reaffirming that, like, your baby is going to be just fine. And it's not like she's leaving for the weekend. She left one time for the weekend. She took the baby with her. But yeah, like, she knows the baby's fine. And I really think this parental leave has been helpful in that, like, I go the whole day, taking care of Tatum. We gonna hit multiple spots. We'll hit the mall up. We'll, go out. Me and her, we'll go to the restaurant and we'll eat together. It's just me eating. She gonna be right there with me. Yeah. I give her a bottle. And we just hang out. And I think that's built a lot of confidence. And now she's even, more secure in, like, going to do things and, like, leaving her baby. Not that she ever doubted me. Yeah, but it was different. She was like, I don't know if she's going to cry uncontrollably, and you can't, like, she knows that I can fully handle it. So I appreciate this parental leave time, and I still got over 2 months. But yeah, just really reinforcing that, like, everything's going to be okay, but, like, she still has her life. But she's very much in her me stage now. She's going to get her hair done. She's going to get her nails done. She's going to go out, and she deserves it.
Yeah, for sure.
This episode is sponsored by Nello Effect, a coaching and consulting service that helps people turn mindfulness into action as they navigate the dating world as well as their relationships. Follow on Instagram at nello.effect and find more information in the episode description.
Some of what I heard you say in there, I wanted to double back on in the sense of, well, one, let me start off. You got a good baby, like a chill baby for the most part.
We do.
She's pretty chill. I think in all her 6 months of life, I think I've only heard her quiet twice. And the other part I wanted to highlight is that I do appreciate how you guys are socializing her early to different experiences and environments, so that it's not like she's not oversensitive to them later down the line. And so I think that I have a few other friends that have done that, and seeing their babies become toddlers, and I think it's helped. I think it's been a significant benefit for them to do that. I did want to highlight the aspect of your journey with her, and when you think about other guys, not that her journey, but the breastfeeding journey. Because me as a man, I think I'm pretty knowledgeable about like the transformation that goes in terms of pregnancy, the sensitivities you need to have. But one aspect that I'm not as well attuned to is like the demand of breastfeeding, how much time, the toll it takes on a woman, how often it happens, whether you're doing it for direct consumption or to have like reserve. Can you speak to like what that experience is like, from your point of view, seeing it? Especially because I think she's like 100% breastfeed, right?
She's like 85% breastfed. So we still give some formula just in case, like if there's any time where we need to give her formula, she'll still take it.
It's not like a, what is this, I'm drinking time?
Yeah, correct. So breastfeeding on its own is a journey in that the woman is, basically they're providing source of nutrients of life for that baby. And so I think it was rough for Ashley in the beginning, and we got a like the lactation consultant to come to the house and everything, and so it was hard at first. The baby wouldn't latch. It hurt too much. We did have to get a frenectomy, which like tongue and lip tie, because that inhibits babies from breastfeeding. And so if it's not working out well, the woman can feel like I'm inadequate because I'm supposed to breastfeed, or I would like to breastfeed, and I'm supposed to be able to provide my baby with this, and I can't. And so you have to be supportive in that, like, hey, it's okay, we're going to get through this. And then it is demanding, or in the nighttime, especially in those first few weeks when the baby's eating every 2.5 hours, like they have to be up. And then if not, you're taking a bottle. But even if they're not breastfeeding, they still have to pump because they're still producing. And so you're pretty much on the clock you're on the clock, all day. And so even when she goes out now, she's like, oh, I got to bring my breast pumps, or I'm going to pump in the car before I go, go here, or, she may have to take a break from what she's doing. And so I know that's demanding on her. And all I got to do is feed the baby with the bottle. Yeah. And so I just try to be supportive in that.
Yeah. I think we hear and know like babies breastfeed. So we think it's this like this automatic thing.
Oh.
And what I've learned a lot now with having so many friends that have had babies is that one, is not automatic. Right. Two, there's nothing wrong with getting a lactation counselor or nurse. Yeah. And like the tongue tie thing is common. Yeah. It's not like something's wrong with our baby, so we have to go through this procedure. It's actually more common than people think. Yeah. You speak more to those things and
so I would say, one, it's important for a lot of people don't want to, I'm not going to say a lot of people don't want to talk about like if they have issues, but yeah, breastfeeding was hard for us at first. It was really painful for Ashley. And then I think I mentioned Jomar and Bree. Ari is exactly 1 month older. And so a lot of what we were experiencing, they were experiencing too. And so the tongue and lip tie, when we came across that, they had already told us about it. We were like, hey, we're going through the same issues. So it's really good to have that supportive village in order to like bounce ideas, get feedback. And we actually went to the same doctor that they went to. It was great, to get referrals.
More confidence in that,
who,
yeah.
I think they got it from another friend. And so really having that village, and like you mentioned, like everybody's having kids around the same time. I have multiple friends like within a 4-month span before and after that had kids around Tatum's birth, and just having that, being able to verbalize it. Because at the end of the day, like, you're not the only person going through whatever you're going through, and there's somebody else, and y'all can help support each other through that. And with Jomar, him being a new dad as well, and my friend Michael, like, all of us had a child within 1 month, and it's like, hey man, this is what I'm going through. And like I say, I love being a dad, but sometimes it is frustrating. Sometimes working through your wife through issues and grievances, and we say it lightheartedly, kind of just talking and venting. And I was like, all right, bro, I appreciate you listening.
No, and some things you may not want to share in that capacity, because you're, like I always say, you're navigating, sometimes in navigating how you feel, or seeing how the sausage is being made in terms of your feelings. You don't need to share it until it's done, right? You want to go process it and say, okay, I felt this, but this is where I really stand now that I processed what I was feeling, and you want somebody to be able to talk through that before you can land somewhere. The other thing that I learned was around the fact that I was really surprised that when a baby's born, they often lose weight.
Correct.
Because they're not getting like the steady stream of nutrition and nutrients and food when they're breastfeeding. And so that's something that, is very normal for babies to lose weight, and then you're trying to get back to the baby.
Yeah, you have to get back to the birth weight,
and then you want to go up. How was that experience with that? Did you guys know that beforehand, or you guys had concerns when you found out, like, oh, she's gonna lose weight?
They told us that, and I remember we went to our first newborn appointment with the pediatrician, but our pediatrician didn't play no games and be like, okay, she's lost, I think it's 10%, don't quote me. And she was like, okay, I want you all to do X amount of feedings. I'll see you tomorrow. And then the next time we came, she still wasn't at weight. She was like, all right, I want to see you the next day, And so she was on us. But then what I realized is, although the woman is breastfeeding, there's a lot that a man can do. And so whenever a lot of people would tell me beforehand, be like, oh, your baby's breastfeeding, it's all on the woman. Now I'd be like, that is an absolute lie. You ain't do what you were supposed to.
What can a guy do?
Listen, pump parts. You can clean them. It ain't just cleaning them. You got to sanitize them.
Wash the bottles.
Yeah, wash the bottles. And I would make it a point every single morning I woke up, everything be clean, to where Ashley got in the kitchen. It's everything that she needed. The kitchen was clean, bottles was clean, pump parts was sanitized. Just to make it easier. Just to make it easier on her. So there's a ton that a man can do, and if they say they can't, that means they're not doing something right.
Hard enough. No, that's real. I didn't know that. I'm taking my little notes. The other thing that stood out to me when you talked about Ashley, or encouraging her to have time for herself, and what I heard from you in that part of that story was building trust. And it's not like, oh, I don't trust you as a father, but I do think that with certain things, you have to build a trust for that thing. And that takes time, and that you shouldn't like think that because you, let me rephrase it. What I want to say is, what I got from that is that throughout the relationship, one, there's the initial trust. Do I trust you with my feelings? Do I trust you, in a safety standpoint? All these kind of degrees of safety or trust. But I do think it doesn't stop there, is what I'm trying to say. Like, as you evolve in your marriage as parents, there are going to be more points where you have to work on building trust. And so to me, that this was an example of, as a father, you still have to continue to demonstrate and prove. That was an opportunity to demonstrate for trust in that capacity with her. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that, or people take offense to that. My fiance does interior design, and like we were trying to figure out some stuff, or she'll say, hey, even with the set, she was giving me ideas, and I'm like, well, what about this? What about this? And she's like, you don't trust me in this. It's like, it's not that I don't trust you, but I'm used to working with people, and my job is thinking about the things on the margins that generally people don't think about. So me asking you about these things is not that I don't trust you, but I don't know if you're thinking about all the considerations that I think about.
Yeah.
And so I think she was getting frustrated about my questions, but I'm like, this is the first time we've worked together in this capacity, and so I don't know, like, are you thinking about X, Y, Z, and all these things? And so my questions are making sure that we don't miss anything. I'm sure the next time we do something like this, if she lets me, I'll be like, okay, I know you, because of how you responded. Okay, I know you think about these things, so I have more trust in the process. She initially was like, well, you don't trust me? This is what I do. And I'm like, it's not that. And having that experience and hearing you talk about it, it makes me realize that there's going to be situations when you're working with your partner in different capacities where you have to establish trust for that exercise. And there shouldn't be any like offense taken. It's just natural.
Yeah. And then I would say, and honestly, it was actually Ashley providing me grace and looking out for me, because there's some instances where Tatum doesn't want to take a bottle. And so she doesn't want to be in a situation where I'm with Tatum, she's not taking a bottle, and now I'm frustrated. And so I would say less of like she didn't necessarily trust me, but she didn't want to leave me in a bad, put me in a certain position. But also just learning your spouse, and like we say, it's all about communication. There's tons of things. I know you talk about, like, there's a relationship, there's intimacy, but then there's also just day-to-day tasks and objective things that you got to get through. And one of my favorite things to say to Ashley is, I trust your judgment. She'll ask me about, like, hey, I want your opinion, or what do you think? And I'll say, and it may just be something I don't want to deal with, or I really do. At the end of the day, I do trust her.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll just be like, I don't really, like, this ain't worth our time to discuss. I trust your judgment.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. I trust your judgment, and just go with what you think, because I trust you as a person, especially in whatever aspect. I trust your judgment and whatever. And the thing is, when she makes her decision,
you good with it. Yeah,
I'm good with it. And if you ain't good with it, you better shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because you said you trust her.
You better engage next time.
Yeah, because you said you trust her. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. It makes me think about it because I think we all come up with our phrases. So yours is, I trust your judgment.
Yeah.
Out to her, I want to empower you to go to do it. You know, she's like, I hate that word. You want to empower me to do everything. And I'm like, no, but I really trust. What I'm trying to say is, I trust how you're going to move in this situation. So just do it. I don't have a deep enough preference to do, to like, not, I always, my issue that I'm working on is stop saying I don't care. Because I care, but I don't have a deep enough preference in it to like put brain power to it. So whatever way you want to move, I trust how you move. And sometimes she'll be like, well, I don't know, and I don't know if you're gonna want to do this. And I'm like, we have enough runtime where I haven't complained about decisions you've made. So I empower you to just go. And then if it's something that I didn't like, we can figure out how to navigate that on the back end. But I hate that word, empower. But what I've also learned is that sometimes they just want our opinion because they value our opinion too.
Yeah.
It may not even change what they're going to do, but they just like having our opinion because
and if she pushes like, hey, no, I prefer, and I'll be like, okay, what's up? And we could talk.
Sometimes I'm not like, what's up? I'm like, listen, just handle it. I don't want to spend no time on it. Whatever you want to do, let's go do. But it's interesting that you have the I trust your judgment, and I'm like, I empower you to make the. I want you to feel empowered to make the decision however way you want to make it without like involving me, because I trust how you move, right?
Correct. In hindsight, and I would say Ashley is, especially being the mother, and she was the first one to take parental leave. She took a lot of the responsibilities of Tatum, making sure that Tatum had everything. And now Ashley uses that with me. I'm like, hey, what about? And she's like, I trust you. I trust your judgment. So she uses the same term with me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Before we wrap, because I know I'm mindful of your time, I do want to hit some of the round robin quick fire questions if you have a few minutes left.
Yep.
So give me your top answers. Short, one or two words, 1 or 2 quick bullets. If there are a couple of areas at the end that we want to talk about, we will chop it up about it then. Is it necessary for your wife to be a best friend?
Yes.
Was it important for her to be a best friend before you proposed?
Yes.
When you were dating, did you have any expectations of like payment, in the sense of like, okay, we would have went out 4 or 5 times on a date. I would hope that she would,
I didn't have any. I had no expectations, but I wouldn't say like she paid for like large things, but like small things she picked up automatically, like early on, and so I appreciated that.
Got it. From a love standpoint, in terms of prioritization, is it wife over children or children over wife?
It's wife over children. As long as my children see that we love each other, they're going to get everything they need out of it.
Okay. Well, this is gonna be an interesting question for you. We didn't talk about it much, but we can double back to it. Was your wedding worth it financially?
We did a small elopement with about 10 people. So financially, yes.
When I asked, like, oh, I already know the
Yeah.
answer to this. If you had to pick, a fixed amount of money to spend on one or the other, what would you spend more money on, a big ring or a big wedding?
I mean, I'm answering this question in hindsight. It was like 50-50.
No, I'm just saying now, like if you were doing it now, knowing what you know now, having bought a ring, having had a wedding,
Probably would still do
you
the
just
same.
split it? Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of in-laws, what's your relationship? Are you guys good? Is it cordial, or like I'm only there when I have to be?
She doesn't have a good relationship with her dad, and so I've only met her dad once. I never asked for her dad's approval for hand in marriage. I have a good relationship with her mom. Her mom texts me. I can text her. We've had discussions outside of Ashley.
Yeah, what about
So a
her
good
on your
relationship there. And then on the other side, Ashley has a good relationship with my parents.
Gotcha. True or false? Guys mature later than women.
Maturity in all aspects, I don't know. In relationships, yes.
Okay. In terms of sex, what's ideal for you in frequency of sex? All the time, monthly, once a week, every now and then.
I would say prior to the baby, I would have told you like every day. Now, I think that's with baby 6 months out. That's something that we're still learning. I'm okay with like 2 times a week.
Got it. Okay. He said, "Oh yeah, all the time before the baby." It might be tough now because you have a 6-month-old. But how much time would you say you and Ashley get alone on a weekly basis?
Honestly, right now it's just evenings after she sleeps. So, but that's a work in progress.
When you look at yourself and how you prefer things or how you prioritize things, would you consider yourself a journey person or a destination person?
A journey person for sure.
That's surprising. I didn't know that. I think I would have tagged you as a destination guy. But do you think you married up?
For sure.
Was there any deal breakers you had coming into marriage, or when you thought about marriage in terms of things that you might not move forward on a marriage? For example, like disciplinary approach or changing the last names. Were there certain things that you're like, hey, this is a deal breaker for me if they're not moving away?
So marriage or dating, but
no, when you were before you got married, when you were
yeah.
thinking about it, like this is going to be a deal breaker for me if this person, for example, let's say you were like, I want that person's last name to change, and they're like, no.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All related to marriage.
Yeah, all related to marriage.
Yeah, one. There was her last name was changing.
Okay.
We talked. She was like,
No
"Yeah,
hyphenation?
what's your thoughts?" I was like, "You want to be married to me? You're gonna take my last name." That's.
Yeah.
She didn't have any real issues, but she wanted to ask the question.
If
So
she
you-
had an issue with it, how would it have gone? Well, we'll double back.
Yeah.
Who runs the show, you or her?
I run the day to day, but she has the ultimate approval.
Okay. What do you think?
So she has veto power.
She has veto power. Yeah. What is your wife's greatest attribute?
Like I say, one, her pure heart, and then just her ability to connect with people. My friends are her friends now. Yeah.
And then what's more important for you in terms of your wife, to be respected or to be loved?
I think respect is like ground. Like you can't love anybody without having respect for them. Yeah.
So that was it. It was that simple. Nothing too hard. Did want to get back to the scenario around how your wedding, but also the last name. So let's say she felt strongly about like hyphenating or keeping her last name. You would have just ended it.
We talked about we had this discussion, and like I mentioned earlier, like she doesn't have a good relationship with her dad. And I did make the comment. I was like, you're carrying your dad's last name who you don't even have a good relationship with. And I think a lot of her challenge was like hypothetical. I wouldn't call it a challenge. Like she was just questioning. But I expressed how strongly I felt about my last name and carrying my last name. And so she kind of knew that from the jump.
Yeah. No. I think that's a big thing or important thing to talk about, especially if you know you have things that are like deal breakers for you. Talk about early. Like I remember I talked to this one girl and she was great. Like we got along, things were going well, but she didn't want to change her last name. And part of that was there was like some cultural aspects of it and some history behind it that she wanted to keep. And I was like, I hear you, I respect that, but it doesn't change what I want in that. And we also had like differences in terms of discipline for kids. 'Cause I'm like, if I need to spank my child or discipline them in that manner, I don't know that I would lead with that, but I want that to be a tool that's available for us to use. Because like I was a kid that needed to be spanked a little bit. Some kids don't need that.
Yeah.
And due to certain experiences, she didn't want to do that. And that's not a conversation I want to have if we realize, hey, we talked to the kid, we did the timeout, we tried all these things, and he just needed to get smacked, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to have that conversation on the back end after I've committed that we weren't going to do that. And although things were going well with us, I had to end it because I knew enough about how she felt in that situation to be like, I don't want you to change your name to appease me, knowing how important that is to you. You just got to find somebody that wants that too.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to feel differently about it, but I know enough about you and care enough about you and respect why you want to do it to not have that be like a lingering thing. Now you automatically at two, frustrated or resentment because I forced you to do this thing. Yeah. And so I just think, I think it was a good opportunity for me to highlight that I think people wait till like they got so far in a relationship to start having conversations about things they know might be an issue down the line, and it makes it harder to do what's best for you when you're so like emotionally tied to someone.
Yeah, we talked about premarital. I mean, we talked about just counseling in general, but also every couple should do premarital counseling because premarital counseling, you have a certain number of aspects of items that, hey, I need to touch on this, this, and this. And this is stuff that you may not have think of. So it's an agenda of items that you can talk about. Whereas like couples counseling, you just talk about like, what's specifically hidden you are. I know we're short for time, but that's a pro. Like those items come up in premarital counseling. If you're serious in a relationship, you should do it.
Just a quick thing. I would say, one, you should do it because it's beneficial for your relationship to bring up things you're not thinking about. Two, at least in the state of Texas, you save money on your marriage license for it, and you don't have to wait the 3 days in case you're in a rush or you forget to do it to get your marriage license. So there are multiple benefits for doing it. I'd also say even after you get married, I know you guys are doing counseling as a couple, but if there are groups that you can plug into with people in your journey, it's great to do it because we did couples counseling or premarital counseling through our church. And the church had like what they call launch groups. So it's like 7 couples that are all going to get married within this next year. And it's a year long. So we're all kind of navigating the same or similar experiences in planning a wedding and being married. So, and then we have like a couple mentor couples that have been married for years talking through their experiences. And I just think it's been so refreshing hearing people share similar stories so that you feel like you're not alone in it, or hearing other challenges. You realize, okay, ours is not that bad.
Yeah, 100% agree. We did premarital counseling, Concord Church, CSI.
We're doing it at OCC.
Shout out, Team Lewis. We still cool with tons of people.
It just makes a difference. Even like I remember one of the mentor couples was like, she was from Louisiana. She was a baby in the family, and she was like, I had to learn how to be a better wife. Like she's like, I was a baby in the family. The way we were raised, I had to learn how to be a better wife. And she's talking. I'm looking at my fiance. I'm like, y'all sound very much. And like they end up talking because they shared a lot of similarities in experience, and just her breathing life into her, not from like, well, you got to do all these, but like the why behind it and how this is going to help her. There's no way that I could have communicated that to her. And so I say that to say, if there are ways that people can do that in their first year, it just makes the world of difference. I want to wrap up with the way that we typically wrap questions. Why did you get married? Ashley aside, not who you got married to, but why did you want to get married?
Ashley made me want to get married.
So prior to her, you weren't thinking about it?
Like I told you, I wasn't looking for a serious relationship. She changed my perspective.
What were some of your biggest misconceptions about marriage?
Like I said, one, it's more work, but two, just what I was gonna get out of it as far as like the stability that it gave me as a man.
It's more meaningful to you now? Correct. Got it. So, Tatum is 6 months, but and we're in 2024. So come, 2020 or 2040 and she's like 20 years old and she's dating. What advice would you give her?
Never belittle yourself or make yourself small to fit in any spaces or any other man's idea. Yeah, always be yourself.
And if you had a boy, what advice would you give him 20 years from now, or 20 years from when you have him?
honestly, just the respect of women, and like, would you want your mom to know how you treat women?
That's a good one. Well, I really enjoyed your time. I appreciate the time that we had. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Terrence. I'm looking forward to the guests that we have coming up, where we're going to go deeper into conversations. I have some guys that are going to interview me down the line. Until next time, you know what it is. I hope the conversation keeps going.